From the National File, Georgia, ex-Kemp staffer lobbies for Dominion. Voting madness leads to lame recount. So much cronyism. By Patrick Howley, published November 13th, 2020. Georgia Republican Governor Brian Kemp's former chief of staff lobbies for Dominion voting systems, the embattled George Soros-linked company that flipped votes from President Donald Trump to Joe Biden in the 2020 election. Dominion products were used in Georgia, where massive vote counting problems plagued the hearts of the citizenry. The New York Review of Books reported, quote, in Georgia, election integrity advocates managed to stop state lawmakers from passing a bill in 2018, SB 403, that would have enabled universal use ballot marking devices. But lawmakers went ahead and passed a new bill, HB 316, enabling them in 2019. Georgia has since purchased BMDs from Dominion, whose lobbyist, Jared Thomas, was Governor Brian Kemp's chief of staff and press secretary from 2012 to 2015, when Kemp was Secretary of State. Dominion's partner in the state is No Ink, a supplier of electronic poll books which are used to sign in voters and confirm voter registrations. No Ink's founder and CEO, Scott Leyendecker, is a former Republican election official whose wife donated $2,500 to the campaign of Georgia's current Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, in November 2018. End quote. The Georgia election in 2020 was an absolute mess, with a burst pipe at State Farm Arena used to justify late-night vote counting in Fulton County that gave Joe Biden a mystical lead. Not surprisingly, considering Governor Kemp and the Secretary of State's connections to Dominion and its Georgia partner, the recount, quote unquote, in Georgia was quite lame Friday, with no actual auditing of the ballots as expected. National File reported, in announcing that the state of Georgia would execute a recount of ballots cast in the 2020 general election, Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger intimated that the exercise would put to bed concerns about vote fraud in the election. Now, questions are surfacing about the methods being used to execute that recount. Raffensperger, a Republican, said in announcing the recount, quote, this will help build confidence. It will be an audit, a recount, and a recanvass all at once, end quote. He said all of the 159 counties in Georgia execute the hand recount and that it should be completed by the deadline for the state to certify the election results November 20th, 2020. But reports are coming out of vote tabulating centers that the recount effort is nothing more than a duplicate of the initial process, which would effectively do little to audit the process. Molly McCann, who is of counsel to Lieutenant General Michael Flynn's attorney, Sidney Powell, tweeted out, quote, attention, Georgia. The Georgia Republican leaders are selling us out. I am listening to JF Radio Show on Bannon's War Room, and he is reporting that the Georgia recount is a farce. They are using one observer for 10 teams, which means the observers are only able to watch 10% of the action. They aren't checking signatures or matching absentee votes with addresses. Essentially, it is a pure recount that will retabulate the bad ballots. Raffensperger has come under intense fire from the Trump campaign, which requested the hand-executed manual recount. He has taken further fire from Senators David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler, who called for his resignation over his handling of their races, which heads to an all important January 5th, 2021 runoff election and the election in general. Quote, the management of Georgia elections has become an embarrassment for our state, the Perdue and Loeffler campaigns said in a statement. We believe when there are failures, they need to be called out, even when it's your own party.